You're special.
Well, hello. Welcome to Drawing with Fire. I'm Valarie, your neighborhood pyrography artist. Join with hubby.
Okay.
And one of the fur babies, because she'll lay down and not get hyper. Alrighty. So today I did some little work on the bear. And today we are going to discuss critiquing our own art so we can decide if and when it is done. So if anything's blurry, click on your little gear at either the top right or bottom right. Make sure it's running 1080p 60 and hopefully that should clear it up. I know for me it can look a little off. Alright, everything look and sound good? Just want to make sure before we get going. Alright, let me get to my files. Alrighty. So, this is a really big piece. And hard for me to get it all on camera. I'm holding it at what it would look like hanging on the wall. But then I can't go up and down with the camera. Let me stand up and try that. So we can critique. Roxy, lay down. Here I go and brag about you being able to just lay down and you're sniffing around. Alright, so we're going to start at the top. Make sure my reference, we can see that as well. There we go. I think we'll make it a little bit bigger just so we can see. So what I've got so far, and I'm going to keep darkening, but that's what I need to look at first. Now let's get this out there right now. When I say we're critiquing our art, we are not critiquing ourselves. This is not about ourselves. This is about our art. And if and where we want to fix it, improve it, keep it, what have you. It is not about us as a person. Look at that. Burl's already telling me. Hey, Burl. Hey, Spence. So I wanted to make sure we got that right in there. This is not about you as a person. This is about the piece of art you're working on and when to call it finished.
It's never finished.
Oh, it'll get finished. In fact, this needs to be finished in the next 2 weeks so I can get it varnished and ready for competition. So, looking at the top, as Burl stated, the tree needs to go darker. I'm just looking at a smaller version on my screen because when you look at it in person, it is darker than what you guys are seeing. But yes, it does need to go darker, and I can see that I need to have some really darker places up here in the top. By going darker, the burning I have here will lighten up, just like it is in the photo.
Yes, I see.
Bro says they're never finished. Yes, they are. We're going to get there. It may feel like that, but we are going to get there. And remember, with this photo, I did a composition, so I put in I took different, this was a much bigger photo with bear cubs in it and what have you. And I pulled out the bear cubs and I had to move trees and backgrounds so that I can have it the way I wanted it for this piece. So that's why.
She says also, and the branch about the left ear.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. She's talking about this branch. It also needs to go thicker as well. And I need to have this one going. Yes. It still needs to go darker. If it is slightly different, it is not a big deal. Because when somebody looks at your work, at least in person, your reference photo is not hanging with it. So once you call it done and you sign it and you varnish it and you hang it for whatever reason, unless it is a personal portrait or of either a person or an animal, pet portrait, nobody's going to know that it is not exactly like the photo.
Except for Burl.
Except for Burl. And that's only because she's been staring at this reference. Her and Spence have been staring at this reference for over a year now. Or about a year. So that's why they can pick out things quickly. And yes, it's far easier to critique someone else's piece than it is your own. Which is why I'm trying to teach you guys how to do it without feeling bad about yourself, without feeling like you screwed up. You have not screwed up. You just need to go a little longer. And I know that can be frustrating because you've been working. This piece has over 100 hours at this point. And am I a little frustrated it's not done yet? I am. But life has happened.
Roxy.
I couldn't burn every day. I at one time was in the hospital for over a week.
I was in the hospital.
You were in the hospital. You know, life happens. And I do want to take a moment right here, since we're discussing life, and I want to honor our mod, Sheila. Sheila had been with the channel and as a friend since he started burning in, I believe, 2017. And she had been my mod for both YouTube and the big Facebook group. And unfortunately, last week, Sheila passed away. So I wanted to make sure and take a moment to honor her, because she did so much for myself, but also for the friends she made in the group, and even people she didn't necessarily make friends with, but she still talked to and helped supported. She loved looking at all your burnings. Unfortunately, she had to stop burning back, I believe, during COVID because of medical issues. And yeah, Sheila is already greatly missed, and it still hasn't quite hit me. Even though she was from across the pond, she was a very good friend, and we send all of our love and support to her family in their time of mourning. So I just wanted to put that out there. And okay, so Sheila loved the bear. She did love the bear. In fact, she had wanted to burn it, but unfortunately things happened. So let's get back to critiquing. Yes, all this at the top, there's still areas that need to go darker, and where there's not burning, it will show lighter through. For the sky, these are just leaves that we don't see any detail. We just see some tonal value in there. Alright, so let's move down to the bear. I spent the most time working on the bear. I got this area much darker, and I'll show you how I did that. I still could make it a little thicker right about here if I want to get the shadow completely right. I need to curve it just a little bit, but straighten out this line a bit. I'm happier with the tree down here, so I don't know that I'm going to mess with that too much more. And over here is blurry. I'm fine with it. Not wanting to work too much more on that. I do feel I need to darken up this side of the face even more. I worked on darkening this, and we can see where I darkened the eye from last week. The members live, they know that this is darker than what it was last week. I've been working on darkening up the muzzle more and getting the fur to lay right. It's not that it was wrong, it just needed more time. What about the shadow on the left side of the face? The shadow.
I think she's talking about the big
Are you talking the stick? I never was going to put that in. Because to me it looks more like Scar. I know we talked about it a long time ago. I was never going to put that in. It's not even in the pattern. Or are we talking about here? Or are we talking about here? I intentionally darken. I still got to darken a little bit more because the bear would be casting a shadow on the tree other side. Yeah, this needs to still go darker more. But I've got it started. Come down.
I think one thing that I was thinking, and you can correct me on this, so sometimes depending on the wood that you use, right? And I'm not a pyrographer, so there's a couple different things going on here. One, it looks different in person than it does. On screen, so it might not need to go too much darker. And then two, sometimes you can only go so dark because you're limited. Well, there's limitations in the wood. So whatever the darkest tone is, like when you're burning, is going to be your set point for the dark tones in the work of art, and you have to kind of work around that because unlike
if you start off really dark, yeah.
I'm just saying that there are limitations to what you can achieve. I think depending on the wood that you're working with, because some wood you can't really get that dark with. Am I correct or no?
No, you can get black, but you have to start off pretty darn close to it.
Gotcha.
And then yes, it's much harder. Like I started off really dark here, and so it's been harder to darken it up more because there's already that dark bird.
So I guess maybe another point that I'm making is that it may be more about the relation of the tones to each other than the faithfulness of the subject matter in terms of darkness. And that is not to say that giving anybody an easy out, but I think that if you wanted to go darker on this, it might ruin it.
No, but when I put more darker mid-tone in, it'll relate darker.
Okay, right.
And that's part of what we're doing.
Cap doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's okay.
I know.
This
is not my medium. I'm
medium.
asking these questions for clarification.
Yep. What I'm doing right now is tearing a workshop towel, paper towel in half because I don't need all of it. Because I've heated up with hot air a lot and been trying to burn darker, what I need to do while we're in this spot, because we do have lights and darks here, so this will be the best spot, is to take my denatured alcohol. Let's see here. Denatured alcohol. I believe it's called methylated spirits outside of the US. It's very strong. If you're super sensitive, mask and gloves are definitely recommended. I'm only getting this a little bit wet. Immediately put my lid back on because I do not want to keep it open. This is not soaking wet. It is not dripping. I don't want it dripping. So I'm going to fold it. And what I'm doing, one, I'm cleaning off any oils or carbon off of the wood. But two, and just as important, is I'm looking at my light and dark areas to see how much they're going to change, and see a little carbon did come off. Once I varnish, this also helps pull graphite off the wood. But this shows me how much my lighter areas could potentially darken We can really see it on this side of the tree. So looking at that, potentially I don't need to go, I don't think, any darker in the background on this side. I think we're good there. Let's check our darks, and this will dry very quickly. The reason you don't want to use water is it'll raise the grain, and we're not looking to raise the grain. The alcohol dries very quickly. It also gives us a better idea of the color of what it's going to look like once it's varnished, because the color, the tonal value will change on the wood. Let's come down here. I need to go darker down here at the bottom. Especially along the tree and the bear. And this helps tell us if we're getting any closer to being done, to where I want to call this done. Now, if you use a wax-based transfer paper, it's going to be off a little bit while I try to, I have to hold up here so I can wipe down. And see, it's not a lot, but we are pulling carbon, which in pulling carbon, it can potentially lighten your burning slightly, because that carbon's just sitting on the top of the wood. So we can see paper towel's not perfectly clean, and we'll just switch it around. So I would say, because of the products I use for varnishing, this is closer to what the wood is going to do. You'll also feel your pen move smoother across your wood, and that's because of all the erasing that you've been doing will also lift. And it'll just feel better, smoother, because you've cleaned off the wood. Alright. So let your board dry off real quick. You'll know it's dry when it's not cool to the touch. So in doing that, I know we're getting closer. I am definitely getting closer, which makes me excited. Based on the reference, I'm going to move that up. So a little closer to what it looks like. There we go. I know I need to go darker here and bring it down. Need to go darker along here. Not much though. If your paper, see, you can already see the paper towel drying, because that's how little I really did put on. I want to check this. Yeah, that needs to go darker. And I don't want to have to use my pen in this particular case, because I really have to bump up the heat, and I don't want to have to bump it up that high. So how am I going to darken this up without using my burning pen?
I know. You increase the contrast on the
camera.
On the camera.
Problem solved. My camera's all loose again. Let me tighten that down. Why is it so loose? Sorry about that. I think it's just from moving it around a lot. Alrighty, I am going to use my torch. I got this off of Amazon. It is in the Amazon store. Link in the description. And this gives a break to my pins and not having to put them up so high. I know it's on because it's hot, because it's red. And I'm using the hot air tip. Now, if your wood is cold, it might take a few seconds for it to start actually heating up. And remember, we've already burned. And so it's going to take a little more attention. Not too much. So with this, I can shape the fur better. I don't have a flame, so I don't have to worry about charcoaling. I mean, if I kept this in one spot and just kept heating that spot up, then yes, it would turn into charcoal because it's really that hot. But because I move around, I'm not going to get that charcoal look or feel with using the torch. And that's one thing why I really didn't use the torch too often, because I don't like that look. For my art personally, what anybody else chooses to use is completely their choice. But for my art, I don't like it. It may have its place down the road, but for right now, it's just not something I want to use. So I'm darkening up, and because I'm moving, it's not going to, it'll darken, but it's not going to get a really hot spot as long as I keep moving. And right now my flame inside is fully up. And see, we can see it darkening. Hopefully it's translating on camera. It is brighter on camera than it is in my studio. Let's see here. I can darken this area. But even with darkening this area, which is light fur from the sun, once I darken over here, that will lighten up again. So that's when you're critiquing, thinking about how you can make these changes to get where you want it to be is going to help so much. And I am keeping some distance because I don't want to bump it with this red hot tip. Now I said that I needed to kind of bring this part of the shadow down, making sure I'm still on camera.
I'm still on.
If I get closer, the area that heats up gets smaller and more direct. This is similar if you've ever used an airbrush. It would be similar motion. And where I've burned really, really dark, it's actually going to pop out more. So I also need to keep that in mind. If I felt like I went too dark somewhere, I might want to kind of avoid the area. This is hot air. No flame touching the board. The flame is inside the tip. And I like this one a lot better than the Dremel. And it's very cheap and easy to buy new tips for it.
Bro wants to know if that's hot air or flame.
Hot air. I just happened to look up and I saw, that's why I answered.
What's interesting is that casts a light on the board
So you know where you're at.
as if it was a flame.
Yeah, no, this is all hot air.
So is that light from the heating element?
Yep.
Okay.
The flame is inside, and then the tip diffuses it, and so it's only the air that comes out.
Okay.
The Dremel also has this tip, but one of the reasons I stopped using my Dremel is the tip stopped working. And when I went to buy a replacement, it was going to be something like $60 for this tiny little tip. And I was like, oh no, I am not spending $60. It was cheaper to buy this whole new setup than it was to buy a replacement hot air tip for the Dremel.
Yeah.
Alright, got that darker. Let's darken this a bit more. So spending that time looking at what is, you're being realistic, you're not being harmful to yourself, but looking at your piece. Now there may be things that you've changed in your pattern or your artistic voice on the burning. And if that's the case, then keep up with that choice you've made. Excuse me. You don't have to keep going based on the photo. So if you've made artistic choices, just keep that in mind as you're critiquing so that you can continue with the choices that you've made. If that makes sense.
I think so.
Sometimes I forget and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like this, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, I changed that. And you absolutely have the right to change it. That's part of what makes it your own art. Now, I do know I need some darker areas under this group of fur right here. So I'll do that with a pen. I'm just trying to get this large area darkened up. And just like with using my pen, the slower I go, the darker it will go. Is the darkening area showing up on camera?
I think so, a little bit.
Because I can really see a difference. I didn't go dark enough right in here when I burned it in. But this definitely helps to darken a large area quickly, which allows you to bring your pen in and do your detail again. And then down here, you can see the dark here, and right here is darker in person, but it still needs to go darker. Looking at the reference side by side, I need to get a better angle. And even if it darkens up where I've got the light groups of fur, that's fine, because I can always scratch out like we discussed. Or when I put in, because there's some darker group lines as the fur goes across, moves across, that I've got to put in, and those will lighten up as well. Plus, as the bear is turning away from, because this is a 3D object, it's turning away from the light, this fur over here is just not going to be as bright. I'm just trying to get some of the under the group. The that's already been burned to darken up a little bit. So I do need to get closer. My hand might get in the way for a moment, but I'll move it. I'm just trying to get into these little areas. And this is definitely a tool I highly recommend.
On Canada Amazon, the hot air gun is green.
It's green. For the same brand? And see where I've already burned dark, it darkens up faster the closer I am. Separate some of these groups. Make sure if you've got to look away to pull it off the board so you're not burning a hole in your burning. You can see how much control I really do have, and the more I use it, the easier it gets. Just like with everything else.
Pro Stormer 2000 watt heat gun, hot air gun, 140 Fahrenheit to 1022 Fahrenheit.
Pro Stormer, that's the bigger machine. This is a Lexavon torch.
What about a torch?
No, I'm not talking to you, lady. Don't even want to say your name.
Got it.
God. Nobody invited you.
Fair enough. Catch you later, Valarie.
Oh, I got disc fire. Whoa, that is not good. Oh, shoot. That is not good. I might need to turn that one off. I think it's because I used the A word when I was talking about the torch that it activated.
Oh, gotcha.
Well.
Oh, is this the...
Yeah, it is. So I'm going to get up close and do the same thing for the groups here.
Burl says 3-speed setting with 4 nozzles.
Yeah, that's the plug-in one. Not the torch.
She says, well, that was the one you had listed in your Amazon affiliate list.
Huh. I could have sworn I've got this in there, too. That's weird. I'll check it. Thank you. Because I could have sworn I had this in there as well. Still need to darken up this area over here. Then getting closer. And then we'll pull the camera back and step back and take another look. Because as we're critiquing, we should be doing that not when we are blocking in, because we're just trying to get the information on the board. So nothing's going to be adjusted right or ready for it. We critique when we're ready to be done with it. And this bear has definitely given me things to think about. So I feel like I need to darken this. So I'm going to pull back just a little bit. This is that light fur. If I get it a little too dark, I can always scratch it out so that it looks more separated. So I'm not going to stress about that. If you're uncomfortable with doing something, one, try it on a test board first if you can. Have a test board similar to the piece of wood you're burning on. And try it. See what you think of it. Or, as you're going, think of ways you could fix it if something happens. Which I really don't want you to focus so much on that, because then you're kind of setting yourself up to messing up. And that's what you're focused on, and I don't feel that's what any of us should be thinking about. We know it's not going to be perfect. Totally okay. What we need to focus on is what our goal is for that piece. Were you trying to learn something? I'm going to turn this off for a minute. Were you trying to learn something? Were you trying to make it more realistic? There we go. Back that
She
up.
put another list of specs in the chat.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. And this is the fuel. In fact, this is that I use for this one. And I've never had an issue with clogs, which can happen with the torch. I haven't had issues with that. Alright, so I'm going to blink my eyes a couple of times. Look around my studio. Because our eyes and our brains get so focused on what we're doing that we may not see what we're looking at seeing. Let me see if I can. I'm not too zoomed in. I can only pull my camera so far. But we will try. Alright. So, based on, and when you look at a different size screen from what you've been burning, it also helps you to see any issues. So right now, I'm looking up at my computer monitor to see how different it looks for you guys versus me. And now what I can see is I need to darken this fur. Not fully this dark, but I need to darken it. And when I go to varnish, we will still see the groups. But based on how I've got this shadow, I could actually bring it down a little bit more. Remember, your wood's going to be warm. You could actually burn yourself on your wood if you touch an area you just burned on. Ask me how I know that one.
How do you know that?
Because I've done it many, many times.
I'm just doing it. You told me to.
Let's see here. Come on. Let's see.
Yours
There we
are
go.
Quite a bit darker.
But because I pulled the camera out, I can see this right here. I need to bring it down. I need to bring the shadow down. Oh, that's a wet nose. That's a wet nose. Not the bear, Roxy. Let's see here. We need to bring this down. I think right about there will be enough. It does need to have a slight curve because, again, it's a 3D object. So I'm going to slow down and get a little closer.
Okay.
I'm definitely happy with the buying this torch, and I've used it a lot more than I did my other one. And in general, I normally like Dremel products, but the torch just isn't as nice. And replacement costs. Ugh. I think I paid $14 for all. I bought a replacement set. So it was all the tips for this one. for 14, around there, versus the 60 something for just the Dremel. Let's see here. Is that darkening up? So we're going to come up in here to darken this group. And I can still see my strokes, so I'm not getting rid of them. There we go. Now, with using this, I would recommend using it more towards the end, as you've critiqued what you want darker, because the hot air does raise the grain, so you could have a little issue burning. So if you can wait, I would. This is also really good for dark backgrounds, smooth dark backgrounds. Highly recommend it for that. But I have found that it burns better going with the green, which is why you may see my hand going up and down. And this will have to be wiped again because there is some level of carbon from the hot air. And I just keep moving.
Why butane? Bro says butane torch, and she's asking why butane over a plug-in.
Well, you could use the plug-in. This is just cordless. It's lightweight. It's easy to hold. I don't have to heat it up. But you can do the plug-in for sure. This is just a very quick grab, and it's easy to hold. And it's quieter. So I can be burning with my pen, decide I want to use it, and then just quickly pick it up, click it on, versus having to set up, plug in. That's the only reason, really. If you've already got a plug-in one, then go for it. Mine is not like permanently set up. I've got it put away. So I need to actually like pull it out. Because I didn't plan to use it for this project. So it's put away. Now you will, whether you use the plug-in one or the torch, you will see it can burn a different color. This color evens out and shifts once you varnish. So if it's coming out a little gray, don't stress about it. When you go to varnish, it will right itself. First couple of times I freaked out a little bit going, no! But it really doesn't cause an issue. But you can see where I've darkened up, I hope. I do need to go darker on the head, but that is where the light is hitting the bear. In fact, we'll stop for a minute and go critique that so I know what I need to do off camera. And just darkening this up a little bit so that it's got dimension. If you've noticed, and this I've scratched out like we did up on the side of the head. So if I keep it at a little further distance, it darkens around the areas that weren't recessed and keeps the lighter areas still light. Which is the same that was going on down here at the bottom. Alright. Let's see. do need to be careful on the edge so I don't start a fire. This is hot enough to start a fire. There we go. This is not an exact shadow of the bear, and the bear would not cast an exact shadow. Because again, this is a 3D object. That shadow is going to move and change its shape.
Andrea's here.
Hey, Andrea! Alright. So did I get that close enough? I feel like I need to bring some down. I'll probably need to work this area more with a pen, so I'm not going to stress about it. But we can see how much the bear's face is darkened up, I hope, on camera. I can see it in person. And where I want a little darker, I pull out, and where I want more dark and more detail focused dark, I go closer. Which means that little dot that you're seeing gets smaller. And I just click off the lock and it turns off. Alright. Whew, I'm sweating. Hot. Alright,
10 more minutes.
Alright, let's blink. Blink, blink, blink. Look at it again. Just where I've worked, do I feel areas need to go darker? Looking at the reference, I still could go darker right here. And the reason it's not as dark is because I lightened up the photo in order to see the detail where the groups and what have you are. But this is where the color photo completely goes away. I don't need it anymore. I'm not referencing it anymore. Now it's just the sepia photo. Because it's only the tonal values at this point that matter. What I'm going to do real quick. Whew, hot. Oh, it is 58 in here. Have my hat on. Took that off. Grab a little bit more denatured alcohol. Just on the tip. And I'm just going to wipe down the area that I just burned. Pull any carbon. Alright. So we can see it's really not that wet. You see, this is the area that kind of grayed out a little bit with the heat. When it gets wet from the varnish, it's going to be the same color as everything else. And we do have a little bit of carbon coming off. So I'm just focusing on where I burned. Squint at it, see? And when I say squint at it, I'm literally squinting my eyes. And the purpose is what it does is it gets your brain to defocus and only see what the darkest areas are. So for me, the eyes are really looking like panda mask eyes. So I know, looking at the reference, the face still needs to go darker. Now, part of the reason it's looking like this is because up here, if I look at it, look at my reference, it needs some more burn. But I can keep it light. It just needs to go, I'd say, about here in a lot of the places about that tonal value. And this way you can compare your tonal values. Yeah, in fact, this right here, I can get up here and it'll still be light, but it won't be white. And the only real white area is up here along the top. So that's good. Squinting, squinting. The ears stand out, the eyes, the nose, right here where we just did the shadow. Looking down. And when I'm squinting my eyes, like really, really squinting them to see. Tree definitely needs to go darker on top in order to make this lighter. It'll pop out lighter. The whole snout needs to go darker. It's too light. Which I did start working on that yesterday. I think overall I'm happy with the curl. I do need to kind of form the groups down here that stick out a little bit more. This could go darker, and I need to bring down a little bit of dark there. Let's see here. Right now I'm just focusing on the bear. Maybe a little bit more dark right here. Actually, I could still push this area back. Darken this. Bring out a bit more dark here. Again, this is nothing about me personally. This is not even about my art, good or bad, you know, having those negative words pop in your head. It's not about that. That is not the critique. That's actually not a critique. That's your brain being a butthead. We don't want brain butthead right now. Or butthead brain. Yes, that's what we'll call it. Butthead brain.
Okay.
We don't want butthead brain right now. We want just realistic, truthful thought about what I need to alter, if anything. You may not need to alter anything. You may do your critique and go, nope, this is what I wanted. I'm happy with it. And guess what? Then it's done. You are happy with what you created, which is awesome. And you're done. You don't have to keep going. I am so close to that point. I would say I'm about 87% there. I do want to darken the bottom of the tree, the top of the tree. I still need to do a little bit on this left side. Decide what I'm going to do here. Darken here. I'm overall happy here, so I don't foresee myself doing anything further here. I might tighten up the tree line, which means burning up against the highlight. And then down at the bottom, there we go.
I'd say too, it looks so much different on the tablet than it does in person.
Yeah, even up on my monitor it looks different. Yeah. And then down here, I did darken this up a bit, just with the torch, just hitting it real quick. On our reference, those are blurry. So I could actually go darker. Just leave some highlights that I probably won't add any white to here because I don't want them to stand out. The white's gonna only be for the flowers, but not for those stumps. Because these flowers are in front of the stumps. I'm not, even though the photo, this is where I'm making an artistic choice. I've got a highlight here that I put in on the photo. I've got these flowers in the front. So I'm not going to highlight these. So those will end up being the tonal value of the wood. And I think that'll work perfectly. The flowers will pop out like I want them to. they'll be there. And this was just a little bit damp. I'm just seeing. Yep, I'll put the flowers in with pan pastels and a brush. I'll darken on this side. In between the highlight, the darks here, the flowers here, those will push to the back. And they'll be there, but you're not paying attention to them. They fit the scene, they fill in the scene, but they don't take away from it, which is exactly what you want for a background. Yep, I think that'll work. So, any white I put on, like I'll push this back a little bit. These are stems, I'll decide, but I do need to have the separation. So that means the tree in front, then the flowers and stems, and then the stumps in the back. Okay. Let's see here. I do feel, let's see, looking. I think overall, let me see if I can pull this up a little higher. I think overall, the fur down here is done.
Yeah, I think so.
So I probably won't mess with that any further. Some more darks just at the base of the groups to pop some groups out. I still need to bring that. Go ahead.
I have to go.
Yeah, still need to darken this area right here.
Everybody, thanks for coming. I have to go.
Go do your thing. So yep, I'm about 87% done. Overall, I'm actually pretty happy with her so far, which is a big deal for me to say. Looking at the reference, yeah, I might darken this a little, this whole area just a shade more. Another thing is to flip your board. And the reason we're flipping it is because the light hits your eyes, bounces and hits your eyes and or the camera differently, and we can see that this bottom area is darker than what it looked like when it was upright, and that's because the light bounces to you guys or our eyes differently, so we can see the difference there. Squint again. Bear head definitely stands out the way I want it to. I darkened this branch, so I'm happy with it. Do need some more darks along here. Yeah. Sorry, I'm squinting and looking. Trying to find things to point out to you guys. And again, to show you, I'm not being mean to myself. This just what needs to continue. And so we can see what we just looked at that looked darker now looks lighter. And again, that's because of how the light bounces and hits the board, or whether it's into the camera or into our eyes. So if you've got a large piece, it's best to keep flipping like what you guys seen me do in order to make sure it's balanced out. So I know, in my head, I know this is darker. We already saw it darker. I know it's darker. If I lean it forward, it goes darker. So this is just the light hitting it, lightening it up. Which could make it feel like it faded or lost darks, but we know it didn't. because we just flipped it. But looking down at the bottom of the tree, yep, it still needs to go darker. So, easy enough. So it's really important to learn how to critique your work in an honest, healthy way. Remembering it's never about you. Even though it's your art, it's still not about you as a person. And you need to just hold on to that. Now I know over the week what I need to work on. Hopefully it'll be nice for me to do any final finish touches with the toasties for next week's live, the super toasties. And then the following, let's see, this has to be turned in on March 6th. I'm checking my calendar real quick so I can tell you what next live. Okay, so hopefully the next public live, we're going to be adding the white. Yep, we're going to be adding the white for like the flowers, any really bright highlights on the bear, and then we're going to call it done. So it will be done by the 17th. Woohoo! Yay! That makes me happy. And I'm going to go ahead and read this at the end of the live. I normally do it in the members live, but remember we all are in different places in our life. What I did was, and this is personal to me that I'm sharing, if it doesn't fit you, cool, that's okay. But I shuffled some oracle cards and asked the universe what we all needed to hear for this live. And this is the card that came to us, and it says, I use my skills and resources with purpose, trusting my ability to turn my aspirations into tangible outcomes. This belief in my power fuels my journey towards realizing my dreams, guiding every step with intention and confidence. And when this card came out, it's magic. I am a creator of magic, however you wish to see that magic. But that fits this perfectly. And I was like, yes, I need to hear that just as much as anybody else may need to hear that. So I wanted to make sure and share that with you. And again, these are the Crow Oracle cards. They're beautiful cards. I love the art. So I'm going to put it back on the stand. I didn't think you guys could read it in the background, so I wanted to make sure that you guys saw it. And for whoever needed to hear that, I hope it helps you for whatever you're working on. And with that, we are going to say it with me. You know what to say. You're awesome. You can do this. Why? Because you're a pyro artist. Happy burning, guys.